So the Diddy trial is underway, officially pretty much adding to 2025 being one of the craziest years ever, probably. 2024, really, the end, the last half, the election and the win, the campaign, the election, the win. And here we are, 2025. I'm not sure that really at this point in time anybody's name being introduced into this Diddy case would shock me, or the incriminating evidence or personal information that they would choose to share for whatever reason it may be. But maybe the question is, what happens next? And that next being after a verdict. After it's all said and done, for those who go away for a very long time and those who are allowed to walk free. But now that they walk free, things change. People look at you different. The cat's been let out of the bag. I don't know how many cats are going to be let out of the bag this year, but this case alone is going to have a lot, I'm sure. We've got one here that says Diddy melts down in court during Cassie's cross-examination. And let's see here. 7 wild moments you missed. Now, one of these moments that may not actually be included is Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan dragged into Diddy's scandal. Cassie's explosive testimony rocks the court. And I just saw Michael B. Jordan earlier today giving a hug to Tom Cruise. Granted, this was outside of the premiere of Michael B. Jordan's new movie, Sinners. Yeah. And also Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. You can't really make this stuff up now, can you? But I do want to dive into this. I got a few other things I want to show you and share with you. But first, let's check out this meltdown.
We have more bombshells that have just dropped out of the cross-examination of Cassie Ventura today, and one of them involves Diddy actually losing it. So the first thing is that Diddy's defense is struggling, and particularly they struggle to cross-examine Cassie Ventura effectively. They were trying to frame everything as these text messages that Cassie had, and they were having her read them, but it just came across as disorganized and ineffective. In fact, many of the text messages that they kept showing in court, well, they just approve things that she's already admitted to.
Well, I gotta say, I think the word is unorganized, but maybe disorganized is a word too. But I kind of was hoping that this would be one of those trials that would be televised. You remember how much fun it was watching Johnny Depp and Amber Heard? Like, man, this would have been one I would have been glued to for sure. Now, it is early, and maybe this is by design. Maybe Melanie King is saying these things on purpose, just to get a little rise out of the folks in the watching and in the comment section, for which it triggered me. And it's like, well, I hear you, but maybe what they're doing is they are trying to create this rapport with Cassie. Maybe they're trying to develop her on the stand and understand her body language by asking her a bunch of easy softball lobs that they already know the answers to, that everybody knows the answers to. And then when she deviates, they'll be able to tell if she's committing perjury, lying under oath, maybe. Or at the very least, when they do hit her with a bombshell, she won't necessarily see it coming because she's so used to the easy good cop, no bad cop so far.
It was just really weird. And then even some of the things they presented, the text messages, well, they backfired on the stand. I would say most of them backfired on the stand. They had absolutely no punch to them. We were expecting all of this evidence and this really hard fighting cross-examination, but if it wasn't backfiring, it just fell flat. There was really no teeth to the entire thing. Now, one of the things they started asking her about outside the text messages was about this drug-laced baby oil during freak-offs. Altogether, it's irrelevant to the entire case.
No, it's not. It is not. And I'm going to show you why. I don't have the clever screen overlay that Melanie King has here showing these 7 wild moments, which is a great idea. This one that we're on now is defense visibly struggling. Next is Diddy has a meltdown. Then the judge reprimands defense. Diddy takes over the cross exam, cheating with Kid Cudi, jealousy over Kim Porter, and then treated like a side chick. I like that because you kind of know where you're at, but if there's no chapters, and you kind of got to wait it out, or at least maybe scroll through until you see it highlighted yellow. And this is actually one of the questions that I received earlier today on one of the members. And they asked in our YouTube coaching, consulting, training. And essentially what they're trying to do is they are trying to get some of this YouTube money, which I can tell you guys right now, with the amount of views that Melanie King has so far in this video and paying good money, I would expect her to make $3,000, $4,000, maybe $5,000 off of this 20-minute video. And that's not even including any other additional sales, sponsorships, merchandise, memberships, you name it. And I mean, those are good numbers. Those are great numbers. And it's a very, very lucrative opportunity. One of my responses was, it's not as hard as a lot of people think. It's actually easier than most people think. Okay. Now, with that being said, this stemmed from creating ideas to create videos. And there's a process to it, but I think that the methodology behind creating or being inspired by ideas to make videos now is actually easier than ever before. So now would be a great time to do it.
But somehow they wanted to bring this up. And it just seems like it was made to create sensational headlines rather than get to anything substantive. And especially the things that Cassie has already testified to. Like, how does drug-laced baby oil help you at all? Now, when they asked her about it, Cassie said, like, during our relationship, there was no drug-laced baby oil. So again, that alone backfired. But there were multiple instances of things backfiring in the courtroom. A lot of people in the courtroom felt like the defense's approach just wasted time, and that it was failing to undermine the prosecution's narrative of coercion and abuse that they've laid out for the past few days. And it has been criticized by a lot of observers for lacking any kind of focus and any kind of substance. Okay, let's get to Diddy's courtroom meltdown.
Well, I mean, from the defense's standpoint, to prove that there was no drug-laced baby oil maybe helps Diddy's case. But I guess I don't know what case this is. Is this Diddy's whole case, or is this just a case between Diddy and Cassie? I thought this was like a bigger deal than that.
And you could visibly see that he was very angry. So he had this meltdown right after a judge reprimanded his defense team for delaying tactics. I brought this up in another video. Overnight, they submitted 400 exhibits to the court. And the prosecutors were livid, but not just the prosecutors. The judge was pretty pissed off about this. They're trying to introduce this last minute evidence. Now, they claim that it's for to refute Cassie's testimony in the first 2 days when she was on the stand as a witness for the prosecution, and that they need this to fight back what she was saying.
Now, the interesting thing here is I thought Cassie had a non-disclosure agreement, a gag order or something, that Diddy paid a large sum of money for. So I don't even know how Cassie's able to divulge this information.
But overall, it just disrupted the courtroom. And the judge is trying to keep these things going. He doesn't want Cassie to be on the stand but a certain amount of time, because I always keep saying she's 8.5 months pregnant. She can give birth any day. And he's trying to keep this timeline. This is already a very long trial. It's expected to last 8 to 10 weeks. So he was not putting up with any of the shenanigans. Getting back to Diddy being pissed off. So
there's no way Cassie doesn't have to be excused and needs to give birth before this trial is up. And then the amount of recovery time and maternity. Like, is there maternity leave when you're a witness? How does that work?
After the dispute for the timeline over Cassie's cross-examination and, because they had submitted all this, Diddy seemed like furious. And he actually isolated himself during a recess from his attorneys for about 10 minutes. And that they were all standing at least a couple of feet away from him. So he's over there fuming. And then one by one, he calls each one over individually and berates them, like snarling and getting loud and just really dramatic. You could see it on his face. This is what people are reporting. So he's reprimanding his own defense team. Now, of course, he is the client. He's paying millions of dollars for this defense. He's bringing in 1,000 different lawyers for different things. So I can understand him being upset, but the evidence is the evidence. They have what they have to work with. I don't know if he's hoping they can manufacture something.
Even if Diddy were to somehow walk away from this all, granted, he wasn't allowed any sort of bail. Carmelo Anthony stabbed somebody in the heart and killed him, and they let him go. But Diddy, they're like, nah, bruh, you got to stay in there. Now, apparently Diddy did some wild stuff, so we're going to get to that in a minute. But even if he were to be able to walk away from this, even if he wins, he still loses, right?
It's been a better narrative, but these are top attorneys. So if they're not able to do it, the only person he should be pissed at is himself. Another little tidbit about this, not only was he berating them and showing himself being visibly pissed off, but he was actually calling them derogatory names, cussing them out. Yes. We expect that from Diddy. If you ever watched Making the Band back in the day, you could see back then what a disgusting man he was, how derogatory he would speak to people, the names he would say, the things he would have them do. He had one time some of these kids who were trying to make it into one of his bands and become artists, become stars, walk from Manhattan, where they were staying, all the way to Brooklyn to, I believe, what's the cheesecake place? I forget the name of it. I've actually eaten there before, the one they have now in Times Square. It wasn't only in Brooklyn then, but they now have different locations. But he had them walk all the way there, across a bridge, miles, in order to get some cheesecake. It later came out, years later, this came out recently, that cheesecake was actually for Beyonce. Now, we don't know that Beyonce demanded this cheesecake. She may have just said she wanted cheesecake. Someone could have drove over and gotten her some cheesecake. But instead, he had these kids walk there, get the cheesecake, and then they didn't even want the cheesecake when it was done. So he's used to berating people, having them do what he wants, and cussing them out, which he would do on that show. But we've seen this multiple times from Diddy, multiple reports, witnesses, people who have been subjected to this, that this is how Diddy operates, even in business. Even in business situations, he will do this. And imagine, he's on trial and he's cussing out his attorneys. Is that supposed to help them, give him a better defense? It makes no sense, but it's in par with his personality type, and he just can't see himself. Now, this next one, it was the judge having to reprimand the defense team over delay tactics. So I brought you how the judge was pissed off. Well, he confronted the defense for failing to adhere to an agreed timeline for Cassie's cross-examination. And like I said, because she's heavily pregnant, they need to keep this schedule. He doesn't want this to drag out for weeks and weeks, longer than it's supposed to. So the defense, led by Mark Agnifilo, admitted that they might need until Monday or Tuesday. They're supposed to finish on Friday. And this really set the judge completely off. Immediately, the judge firmly rejected their request and stated, "You told me you'd be done by Friday." He accused them of attempting to run out the clock to limit the prosecution's redirect, emphasizing that Diddy's potential life sentence did not justify deviating from the schedule. The judge then limited the defense to the remaining day and Friday morning. That's all they're getting is tomorrow morning to cross her. And
you know, of all the things that I never really thought about Diddy. I honestly, I forgot about Diddy. Like, he wasn't making music. He wasn't really being too much visible as a producer and things like that. It was whatever. But to think that he would have he would be in this situation and facing a life sentence. Man, that's like when you go back and you think about the situations of like making the band and Biggie and all, like back like like Puff Daddy days, right? Um, yeah, I just I would have never expected that. There's some folks out there, there's some rappers, and their lyrics would, in essence, really implicate them in very incriminating ways of a lot of different crimes that would more than likely put them away for multiple life sentences. But Diddy was never really like that. But here we are.
I think it underscores and highlights their lack of preparation. We even saw this in the opening statement, because the opening statement from the defense was all over the place. They took an hour, and I don't know if it was to throw people off, but I don't know. It just was not succinct, at least not as succinct as the prosecution's. They came out clear. They only took 30 minutes, and they were driving their points home. This is indicating that they are just really grasping at straws, trying anything to prove this defense that this was just some domestic violence. Cassie was part of this. She really enjoyed it. She wanted to be there. Why didn't she leave? That this was not any type of manipulation or coercion, that this was that she was a willing participant in this entire thing. It's showing through their lack of preparing that they don't know how to actually frame that. And then with them introducing 400 other pieces of evidence into the court overnight, they finished working at 3 a.m. So the judge was already in a bad mood. So tomorrow they have to finish it up in the morning, because remember, the prosecution then gets to follow up again, and then they get to recross. And this is why they need them to hurry up with this whole line of questioning, which to me, the line of questioning seems really irrelevant. So I understand why the judge is pissed off. Next is Diddy, after he was pissed off and he had that whole cussing out his attorneys, well, he decided to take over the whole direction of the team. He wanted to orchestrate their very questioning to Cassie. He started passing notes, okay, and barked orders, directed the attorney's actions, including what questions to ask and how to proceed. So the female defense attorney who was doing the questions, she had to keep pausing just so she could go back and forth and get notes from Diddy and the other lawyers. And she had to alter her line of questioning in real time, and you can tell. This is what made...
You think when she went to go get a note from Diddy, he was like, and he hands it to her, he goes, "Here, take that, take that, take that."
Their entire line of questioning, which was already scattered and nonsensical, even worse, because I guess Diddy is working off his memories and wants them to press these questions, but they haven't been vetted. They can't ask just anything in court. There has to be a build up to it, a lead up to it. They can't just throw out any type of thing to the wall to see what sticks. But in Diddy's mind, again, he has to be in control. And this is how he's asserting control even over his own lawyers in the courtroom. But it's making the defense worse. What was already scattered is even worse. It's more scattered than it ever was. And then the jury can see him doing this. They can see him upset. They can see him angry. They see the control he's trying to assert over his own legal defense team. That does not look good in a courtroom to a jury. So for an example, they were bringing up her relationship with Kid Cudi and trying to say that Cassie cheated on Diddy with him. But their relationship was on and off, Cassie and Diddy.
This is where things get real interesting, folks. Pay attention. Listen to this.
And he would like separate or break up with her. And so she dated Kid Cudi while they were not dating, and she dated him for only a month. But they kept trying to show her as just cheating on him. But keep in mind, their relationship wasn't monogamous. And then Diddy had her doing all of these freak offs with other men, male escorts, peed in her mouth. She has open sores. She has all of these vaginal problems. She's in pain constantly. They're on drugs. And they're now trying to paint it as though she cheated.
Wow. I did not know that. I did not know that. I knew that Diddy kind of hoarded her out, passed her around to multiple different men while he was like, so how did you justify cheating? It's because he didn't tell you to have sex with another man? But then to have other men peeing in her mouth?
Huh? Like that cheating is now a concern? But then she showed and she responded, I did not cheat. We were broken up. And Diddy, their entire relationship,
We were on a break.
was still seeing other women, like not just for the freak offs. He was seeing other women. When
From what I hear, Diddy was seeing other men too.
she was doing the freak offs, this is something he participated in. He wanted, he directed. It was in his control. It was his idea. So trying to paint her as this cheater back then, how does that disprove the racketeering? How does that disprove the coercion, the control, the abuse? You get what I mean? Like, so these are his personal grievances that he once brought out into the courtroom. So this is not a man who's in control. He's just, it's like he's revisiting all these things that happened and say, ask her about cheating on me. Like, who gives a damn about her cheating on you? Let's talk about your nasty ass and these freak offs. Now, the next thing they brought up were text messages about Kim Porter and Cassie's jealousy. So the defense presented text messages. They were doing this all day back from 2009. And this was from Cassie to Diddy. And she had to read these aloud in court. Now, she expressed frustration with his family trips with his then ex, Kim Porter, and all of their children. She wrote, you are not Bruce Willis. We've been together for how long? And the kids? Chance is allowed to go on vacation without her mother. So why can't I be there unless there's something I don't know about that's going on between you and Kim? Now, Chance Diddy has now 4 daughters. One is basically a toddler. I think she's probably 2 at this point, that he had recently with some woman who's in the court, his baby mother. And then he had twins. I forget their names, but he has twin daughters. But
I think you got to be able to understand and accept the fact that if you're going to be in a relationship with someone like Diddy, of his status, okay, his lifestyle, you got to know he's not going to be a faithful partner. Then, if you add on top of that the freak offs, he's pretty much telling you the quiet part out loud. This is what we do when we're together. Imagine what happens when we're not.
He actually, while Kim Porter was pregnant, or right before she got pregnant, because I think Chance is older, he had a little fling with another woman and got pregnant with she got pregnant with his daughter Chance. But then Kim Porter got pregnant with their twins at the same time, like a few months apart. So he has 3 18-year-old daughters. All right. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about the jealousy and this angle that's going on.
Keep that in mind when you're thinking about and we're talking about the text messages and the exchanges and the freak offs and the wild, nasty, dirty sex and everything. These teenagers have to listen to what was going on with their dad. Yeah.
So when she's talking about Chance, she's referring to one of the daughters. Kim Porter would go on vacation with the kids, but Chance's mother was not going on the vacation with the kids. So this is what her argument was to him. So the defense claimed that this showed insane jealousy by Cassie. But then she testified that it was a logical request for clarity about her role, given his ongoing ties to his baby mother, Kim, and that she wanted this to be a respectful relationship where she could be part of it, that she could be a role that was pivotal. But this plays into some other testimony that she had given about how she felt like she was constantly having to chase him. Literally in an email or either text message, which backfired again on them, there's Diddy is saying to her, you need to work 4 times as hard to be with me. And that's where she felt like she had to keep chasing him. Again, you have to think about this in an abuse dynamic. And this is something that especially narcissists will do where they triangulate. They will use flying monkeys. They will, one time you'll be their favorite, next time they degrade you, they discard you. They start that process. And so he would play these women, or he would play to that jealousy. He would know she would feel insecure. And so he would engage with his baby mothers or the other women in order to promote that, in order to make her feel like she had to keep fighting to win him over. The next thing that they presented were these text messages about Cassie feeling like a side chick. So they presented this in court. This one's undated, but it is from early in the relationship. And this is what Cassie wrote. I feel like you're making me a side chick. that I'm only here to make you have a good time. I'll treat you as the king you are, though, no matter what. Now, this was linked to Diddy appearing with another girlfriend. That girlfriend is Gina Han. And they were Diddy and her were at a festival together, and he had pushed aside once again Cassie. Cassie testified that the message reflected her feeling of being undervalued, not jealousy, as the defense kept trying to paint with these different messages. She denied knowing what was the full context of not only the message, but even saying she didn't know their relationship. She directly said, this was over 10 years ago, emphasizing like we sent a lot of text messages back and forth. There were a lot of other women. There were a lot of things going on.
You asked me about the meaning behind the message I sent 10 minutes ago. I'm like, shit. 10 years? Shit. Okay.
A lot of times he wouldn't even respond to her. There was so much that happened, and especially if you think back to 2008, 2009, when this most likely occurred, she's just like, I don't remember all of that. Now, Gina in particular, I have a tidbit about this. Gina was supposed to be victim number 3. There's supposed to be 4 victims that appear as witnesses for the prosecution. But guess what? Right before the case started, she went missing. The feds couldn't find her. They've been looking for her. Even her own lawyer couldn't get in contact with her. Now, Gina went on a show, I think back in 2018. This was a podcast by Tasha K. And in it, she gave an interview of how Diddy used to beat her relentlessly. She detailed all of the abuse in the relationship. She also said that she was pregnant and that he kicked her in the stomach. Like, there was a lot going on with this. And then I would say speed up to like 2022, 2023. Gina must have still been messing with Diddy. Even after she gave this confession to Tasha K about all the abuse and things, she was still messing with him. I believe she did the freak offs and did that stuff that he was doing, that Cassie had to do.
This is manipulation. This is control. This may even be some blackmail. You got to understand the position that these people are in.
All the women he's been involved with, including J-Lo and including his baby mother, Kim Porter, all had to be involved in this freak off stuff.
Oh, don't get me started with J-Lo. J-Lo, throughout the entire election campaign, she didn't want to say a freaking word about Diddy. So I have no sympathy for J-Lo whatsoever.
This was not something new just with Cassie. So I believe she was involved with that. But then she wanted to still, I guess, be around him, or maybe he was paying her bills. Who knows? But we would need her to testify to get clarity. But back in 2022, 2023, this was when Young Miami, Carisha, started dating him, the rapper. And it was really weird. It was like this back and forth between the two women, between Gina and Young Miami, fighting over Diddy. But this is the same time, I mentioned this in another video, where Diddy was getting this award. And on stage, he starts thanking Cassie and that he wouldn't be here without Cassie. And all of these things, these loving things about her, really painting to the world that they were amicable exes, right? So he does that. But at that time, Cassie was married and had 2 children already. And this man is doing this. And what made it even funnier and go viral was that Young Miami, that rapper, was holding up this big sign calling him daddy. But then that same time she was doing that, right after the award show, or right before, I can't remember, Gina... there were pictures of Gina and Diddy coming out, intimate pictures of them, nothing explicit, but them like hugged up and kissing and laid together and doing all of this. And then it was literally a cat fight on social media between these 2 women fighting over Diddy while he's up there thanking his ex, who he put through all of this hell for over a decade. And it's just crazy to see how low some of these women will go in order to get in his good graces. We're going to wrap that up here, but guys, make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell, because
I don't know if I can necessarily say it's how low they'll go to get in his good graces. I think that it's a little bit more nuanced than that. You know, it's not so cut and dry. As I told you guys before, there's more that we needed to discuss here, and that includes this here, which if this is true, breaking, Diddy bodyguard Big Homie seemingly confirmed that Jamie Foxx was poisoned by Diddy, and Jamie Foxx said out of his own mouth that his partner handed him an Advil and woke up 22 days later. Big Homie went on to state that when you come under federal investigation, they send you a target letter informing you that you're being investigated, which would explain why Jamie Foxx would have been targeted. Diddy was the last celebrity Jamie Foxx came into contact with prior to his medical episode in 2023, for which there was very little to no information as it was happening. Remember that? Some would say that it isn't a stretch considering it has now been confirmed in court that Diddy blew up Kid Cudi's car for simply talking to Cassie. Remember, we just talked about Kid Cudi, or at least Melanie King did.
There have been rumors circulating online that Diddy may have poisoned Jamie Foxx, which caused his 2023 hospitalization. In his Netflix show, he compared Combs to the devil in revealing his near-death experience after a brain bleed and stroke. He said, I say this all the time. I saw the tunnel. I didn't see the light. It was hot in that tunnel. I thought, shit, have I gone to the wrong place? I looked up at the end of a tunnel, and I thought I saw the devil saying, come on. Or was that Puffy? I'm effing around, but if that was Puffy at a flaming bottle of Johnson, and no, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Let's go ahead and watch. You can see right there a Diddy tattoo, and you can see Beyonce, who is a character, obviously, in this movie, fighting Goldmember. Beyonce, of course, is been dragged into the Diddy trial as people have sued Beyonce and Jay-Z being part of all of this.
I think that you have taken that to be a not too oblique reference to the fact that he's suggesting he may too have been poisoned.
Jamie Foxx said out of his mouth that his partner handed him an Advil, and after he took that Advil, he woke up 22 days later. That's what he said out of his mouth. I feel like us as a species, I feel like human skepticism has become a virus, because if we don't trust the words of our peers, where are we as a species? You know, eyewitness testimony and circumstantial evidence is enough to get a person a life sentence in any court on the earth. Why is it that when people are whistleblowing and putting their life and livelihood on the line, they receive so much scrutiny? I don't think that's by chance.
I mean, why would Diddy want to poison Jamie Foxx?
If you know that you have, well, just to give some insight to people watching, when you come under federal investigation, they send you a target letter. You know, you get informed that you're being investigated. So if you wanted to tie up loose ends and you were concerned that people that you knew could incriminate you, you may have interest in eliminating them. We've seen this all throughout history.
I mean, this sounds kind of mafioso stuff, but I sense that you're talking from a lot of experience here, that you genuinely believe this is a highly dangerous situation involving a highly dangerous man with very dangerous people acting on his behalf, potentially.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely speaking from experience. This is definitely a highly dangerous situation because this guy was the middleman. He was the party guy. He was the person who lined up the parties and festivities for a lot of guys a lot more wealthy and affluent than him. So, you know, I'm a person who believes that the Epstein's list is very similar to Diddy's list. I'm a believer in that. And, you know, whenever it comes to protecting women and children, I'm going to be fierce. Big ups to my sponsor, Stallion Gear, for putting up funds to help us go out and help people. You know, I want to salute Michael Franzese because he's probably the only famous person who donated to our campaign for protecting women and children, going down to the orphanages.
And so this is why I think it's important that we reference and discuss and get to the bottom of this drug-laced, poisoned baby oil, because there's more to this story that apparently we don't know, but there is somebody who does, and his name is Cat Williams. And Cat Williams called it right away. Check this out, guys. I appreciate you watching. If you want to stay up with the latest on the Diddy trial, let me know. Hit the like button. If it gets a lot of likes, I know this is something that you like and we can keep going. If not, we'll go ahead and talk about something else. Like I told you guys yesterday, it's not necessarily something that I enjoy covering, especially considering how nasty and gross and disgusting it has been. It is, and it's only going to get. But we're here for it. We're here for the truth, no matter what. And hopefully, the views as well, and growing and building YouTube channels and making money in the process.
I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no.